What is going on, everybody? My name is Peyton Burton, co-owner and co-host of the Everything College Basketball Podcast and Facebook group. And today's video, I am going to be previewing the 2023-2024 Atlantic 10s Men's Basketball Tournament Championship, the conference tournament that is happening this week. Actually, this video will come out on Monday, so therefore this tournament will happening on tomorrow. The first couple of rounds. This tournament starts March 12th, and the championship game is on March 17th. This tournament will be held in Brooklyn, New York, in the Barclays Center. And the Atlantic 10 Conference is a really good conference to watch throughout the whole season, but specifically in this conference tournament because there are legitimately like 6 to 7 or 6 to 8 teams that can potentially be good enough to win this tournament. Matter of fact, just going and getting some notes real quick. The top 3 teams, Richmond, Loyola Chicago, and Dayton, were separated by 1 game. Matter of fact, Richmond and Loyola Chicago were actually tied with a 15-3 conference record. Richmond ended up getting the 1 seed because they beat Loyola Chicago early in the season. Therefore, they won the tiebreaker. Richmond's the 1 seed. Loyola's the 2 seed. Dayton's the 3 seed. Top 3 separated by only 1 game. Then we go to the 4th to 9th. It's separated by 2 games. That just shows how good the conference has been, at least top heavy. The remainder of the conference, the bottom half, is what continues to hold it down. There's not a lot of good teams in the bottom half of the conference. There's a lot of mediocre to bad teams. And besides those, the top 9 teams are pretty freaking good, specifically the top 3. Top 3, you can probably pick to upset a team in March Madness. But let's go ahead and get into some actual notes. I mentioned Richmond and Loyola Chicago split the regular season title. They both had a 15-3 conference record. Richmond beat Loyola earlier in the season. Therefore, the 1 seed goes to the Spiders. Richmond is one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country. They shoot over 36% from deep, and they've been shooting over 38% in conference play. Jordan King leads this team in scoring with over 18 points per game. After transferring to Richmond from East Tennessee State, the senior is one of the best mid-major players in the country, and he shoots the ball at a high clip with 42% coming from the 3-point line. They only go really by like 7 deep, but those 7 players that they play all play at a consistent level and all do things great that really helps this team prepare and really gets this team into like a winning situation and puts them in a position to win every single contest that they're in. So they've had a great season thus far. It's not going to stop now. Even though the dirty work and the hard work seems like it's over with, the conference tournament is just beginning, and the hard work is not done yet because they're going to have to go through 4 or 5 teams plus to have a legitimate shot to win this conference tournament. But Richmond has definitely been the best team in the conference, and it shows. They have one of the best players, one of the best coaches, one of the best programs in Atlanta 10. But they're going to have a long way to go if they want to win the conference tournament. Loyola Chicago, without a doubt, has the best defense in this league. They make it really, really difficult for you to score inside the paint. And it really shows it statistically as well because they are first in defensive 2-point percentage. When teams are trying to attack the rim and score on the paint, they don't do it successfully. They really do a good job of locking it down and keeping people out of the paint and really making it difficult for people to score down there. That's not outside the 3-point line. And they defend the 3 pretty well as well. But they are 100% the best defensive team in the A10, and it's really not even close. Like, defensively, they're just so damn good. They lock you up, makes things really difficult for you. You really got to try things on offense to really open up that defense, but no team has really done it successful this year at a consistent level. But with this being in a tournament format, we'll see how far they go. Predictions later on for that. Let's go ahead and move on to Dayton. Dayton, since 1999 to 2024 now, they've had 4 different coaches at this program, and all 4 of them has had their sense of winning. This program just wins, and it goes back to 1999. Like it goes back to 2000. This program just wins. Does not matter who's at the helm. Doesn't matter who's coaching. This program has the winning formula, and they consistently win at a high level every single year. A couple years, they'll have a downfall, but like every other team does, when you've been winning for that long, there's going to be a time or like a very short period where you're not going to win as much as you usually do. But you go back to 2000, Oliver Purnell starts his run at the program 22-9 in his second season at the program. Had multiple 21 seasons. He was only there for like 5 years. Then you move on to Brian Gregory, who did the exact same thing. His first year at the program, he goes with 24-9 record. He was there to like 2011. Then Archie Miller comes in the program. His first team, 20 wins, 20-13, but he consistently wins at a high level till about 2017. In 2018 till now, Anthony Grant comes in and he's had some incredible years. He was on the coaching staff. He was coaching when they had Obi Toppin, and they had that great season in 2021 or 2020 when the COVID year happened, when they went 29-2. The only 2 losses was in neutral site games to Kansas, who was the best team in the country at that time, and Colorado, who was pretty damn talented as well. And both of those games were close. But you go back to, this year, they just have a winning formula. They have really good players on this roster. Some of them I'll mention later on as we get into more previews. But I really like this team. I really like where this program's heading. And they have been, I'm going to go ahead and say, they've been like a perennial powerhouse in like the mid to high majors for a very long time now. They need to get the respect that they deserve. That's the end of the notes. Let's go ahead and pull this bracket up right now. Let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty of things. Let's get into predictions. Let's get into previews. Tournament starts on March 12th in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. First round matchups, we have 3. We have 12 seed Fordham taking on 13 seed Davidson. You have 10 seed LaSalle taking on 15 seed George Washington. And the final matchup in the first round, you have 11 seed Rhode Island taking on 14 seed St. Louis. All 3 of these games will be played on ESPN Plus, with the Fordham and Davidson game tipping off at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Here's how I think these matchups go. And like I mentioned earlier, this tournament, the bottom half of this league has not been good. There's a lot of bad teams in this league. Fordham and Davidson, I think I'm going to go with Davidson just because their defense is just a little bit better than Fordham. Both of these offenses are not that great. They're one of the worst offensive teams in the country for both of them. But as far as conference goes, Davidson's defense has been like top 5 all season long. So their defense has won them some games. And I think their defense is going to be too much for Fordham. They don't score the basketball very well. Neither does Davidson. But I'll always say, if your offense isn't clicking, if you can't score the basketball consistently, your defense always travels. And I think that's going to happen in this game. Davidson will move on to the second round. As far as the other matchups go, I think LaSalle beats the living shit out of George Washington. No offense to George Washington fans out there. You're the worst team in this conference. And LaSalle's actually, even though they're not one of the teams I was talking about earlier, LaSalle has upset some teams throughout this league. They beat St. Bonaventure like midway through the season. They've got an okay roster. You got a couple of dudes on this one on the roster, so therefore, and George Washington really doesn't have anything to be able to compete with LaSalle. LaSalle wins this game pretty comfortably. Rhode Island taking on St. Louis. Again, not a fan of either one of these teams, but if I had to pick one, I would say Rhode Island gets the job done. I think they win this game, again, pretty handily. And like I mentioned with Davidson, the offense isn't great, but it isn't bad. I mean, it's like 7th offensively, according to KenPom for the conference, but they also ranked 3rd in defensive efficiency for the A-10 this year in conference play. So their defense is going to really help them win this game, and they move on to the second round. Second round matchups, we have a game I'm very excited to watch. 2 very solid teams, 2 very evenly matched teams. We have the 8 seed George Mason taking on 9 seed St. Joseph's. I'm going to go ahead and start with George Mason since they're the highest seed here. Excuse me. George Mason has a couple guys on this roster. They started the year off very well. They were 11-1 this season to start. Oh, excuse me. I read that wrong. They were 13-2 to start this season, so they had a really good start. The only 2 games that they lost was on a neutral site game against Charlotte, where they only scored 49 points. They did not score the ball well in this one, but they did hold Charlotte to 54, so it was a very low-scoring matchup for that one. And they obviously lost at Tennessee, which that's not a bad loss at all. They lost by over 20. They lost by 21, 87 to 66. Not a bad loss at all. Tennessee's one of the top 5 best teams in the country. But other than that, they started the year off 13-2, and then to open conference play, they started off 1-4 or 2-4. Excuse me, 2-5. Did not start the conference play off to a great start. They have a very I'm not going to say mediocre, a very balanced team. They're 6th in offense, they're 7th in defense and conference play. They shoot 33% from 3, which is one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in this league. But they get the rebounds. They crash the glass offensively like really well. They're ranked 2nd in offensive rebounding percentage. They're ranked 2nd in free throws attempt and field goal attempts. They're ranked 3rd in 2-point percentage. So even though they're not shooting at a high clip, they'll at least get into the line, or they get into the paint, they're attacking the rim, and they're converting the majority of their 2-pointers. So that helps them. That helps them win them games all season long. As far as who they got on the roster, they have Keyshawn Hall, 17.2 points per game. They have Darius Maddox, who's 14 points per game. Both of those guys can score the basketball. They have Darius Maddox and Amari Kelly are shooting over 40% from 3. So even though as a team they're not shooting at a high clip, they still got 2 guys who can definitely get hot from 3 and really hold this team together. And with their defense and what they're able to do, attacking the rim, makes them a really hard guard for this tournament. I think they beat St. Joseph's in this game. Even though St. Joseph probably has the best player on the court, and Eric Reynolds II, and Xavier Brown shoots over 43% from 3. Both of those guys can get hot. Other than that, I don't expect St. Joseph's to do much to really help them win this game. I think George Mason wins a close one, and I think they win it off their defense. I actually think they'll shoot a little bit better from 3 in this game, just because in a conference tournament environment, teams who normally don't shoot the ball well from 3 or have a game where they'll shoot like lights out from 3. And I think they'll hit about 4 or 5 threes in this game. They'll go about 5 from 12 from the 3-point line. I don't know what that rounds up percentage-wise, but I know that's going to be good enough to win them this game. And I think their defense and just attacking the rim, St. Joseph is going to have a hard time guarding them in this game. George Mason moves on to the quarterfinals. Next up, I have 5-seed VCU taking on 13-seed Davidson. I'm not even going to really preview this game. I'll say VCU in a minute. VCU wins this game pretty handily. They move on to the quarters. Next matchup, quarterfinals. Second round, excuse me. We have 10-seed LaSalle taking on 7-seed St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure has 3 players who score in double figures. Chad Venning being the overall best player on the floor, best player on the team with 14 a game, 5 rebounds per game. Shoots 53.7% from the field goal line, from the field goal percentage, excuse me. They have 2 players who shoot over 40% from 3, including Micah Adam Woods, who shoot over 46% from 3. And then Moses Flowers shoots over 38 as well. And then Charles Pride shoots over 40%. So they have like 3 3-point shooters on this team that can get hot like in a hurry, especially Micah Adams Woods. He's one of the best 3-point shooting teams, not only in this league, but in D1 basketball, period. Like he's a sniper. Like he can get hot immediately. And also he scores 13 points per game. That's not the only thing he does great. 2.3 rebounds and 3.6 assists on this one for him. I think St. Bonaventure wins this game. LaSalle, they beat the living piss out of George Washington, but they're going to have a game. They're really going to have to score the basketball well in this one. They got Khalil Brantley who leads them in scoring, but they don't shoot the ball well from 3, hardly. As a team in conference play, LaSalle shoots about 34% from 3. I don't think that's going to be enough in this game. They're going to have to be able to hit shots consistently at a consistent rate. And even though they beat St. Bonaventure, about a month ago. They did that at the home building. They put up 72 points, only gave up 59, which is really good for them. But I don't think they're going to be able to do that again. They're ranked 12th in offense and conference play. They're ranked 12th in defense as well. So they don't score the basketball well. They don't defend the basketball well. They do a terrible job. They give up like 36% from three. So they're not only not the greatest three-point shooting teams themselves, but they have a hard time guarding the three-point line. I think that's going to play a big factor in this one. St. Bonaventure has 2-3 guys who can flat out just stroke it from three. St. Bonaventure wins this one. Final matchup of the second round, we had number 6, the 6 seed Duquesne, taking on 11 seed Rhode Island. Duquesne wins this game. Not a fan of Rhode Island and how they played this year. They've had a struggle of the season, and Duquesne has had a complete opposite of that. They've been pretty damn well. They've had a pretty good season thus far. They got Day Grant, who's averaging 16.7 per game. They have Jimmy Clark, who having 15-point game. That's by far the two of their best players on the floor, and I think that's going to be the difference maker. Everybody else are the only 2 players on this roster that scores over double figures, but I feel like that's going to be good enough for them. It's been good enough for them. They've won 20 games this season, and I think those 2 players are going to carry them in this game. Duquesne wins this game and moves on to the quarterfinals. Moving on to the quarterfinals matchups, we have 1 seed Richmond taking on 8 seed George Mason. I think Richmond wins this game pretty comfortably in a low-scoring affair. Three-point shooting is their main identity on offense. They shoot over about 37% from three. They have multiple guys who can flat out score and really defend and lock in defensively. Like I mentioned earlier, Jordan King's one of the best players in mid-major basketball, but just in the A10 conference. He's definitely top 3 in my opinion. Neil Quinn, who's one of their big front court guys, 12.4 points and 5.5 rebounds. Also giving out about 4 assists per game, which is really, really good. Shooting about 52% from the field. Isaiah Bigelow is one of their best three-point shooting players for this team, shooting about over 39.5% from three. And just defensively, offense isn't their main calling, isn't their forte, but three-point line is definitely going to be in their favor in this game. And defensively, they're top 2 defensive teams in the Atlantic 10 this season. And I think they win a low-scoring game. I think they hold George Mason to around 60 points, and I think they score about 70 plus. But I think I see this game being a 73-61 affair. George Mason doesn't have anything going on for him outside of Keyshawn Hall. But I don't think he's going to be enough for them in this game. They're not going to be able to hit shots consistently. They're not going to be able to stop Richmond from hitting shots as well. And I think Richmond wins this game probably by double digits, and it's probably a low-scoring game. Richmond moves on to the semifinals, and they will face the winner of these next quarterfinal matchups. Number 5, VCU taking on 4, Massachusetts. This game's interesting with me because a couple of different reasons why. First of all, Massachusetts is one of the best offensive teams in this league. And as far as VCU goes, they're not bad offensively. They're the number one free throw shooting team in this league, shooting over about 79.6% from the free throw line. They shoot a very good percentage from three. They can get hot consistently. They've shot over 39% in league play. But Massachusetts, even though the three-point line is not their calling, shooting they're the worst three-point shooting team in the Atlantic 10. They're shooting 30% from three, and that is not good. I can't even speak properly. That's not going to win them games. If I can spit it out correctly, I still think I fumbled that a little bit. But even though they don't shoot the ball well from three, they attack the rim really well. 52% of the time, they're converting from the two-point line. So they're not shooting the ball well from three, but if they can get downhill and create some driving opportunities, maybe draw some fouls, then I really like Massachusetts' chances. VCU, defensively, they're definitely better than Massachusetts. They're a top 5 defense in the Atlantic 10. They're giving up about 32% from three, which is pretty good. I think VCU wins this game. I think I've actually convinced myself. Before I was recording this, I was pretty set on UMass winning this one just because of how good they are offensively. But if they're not going to hit shots, I think VCU can game plan against that and really lock up their paint. I honestly believe they can probably run some zone in these games. Maybe a 1-3-1, maybe a 2-3. Control that paint. Don't let them attack the rim with ease. Make them hit outside shots. If they hit outside shots consistently, then you have to live with that, unfortunately. But you have to give something up. And I feel like they'll have a better chance of beating UMass if they lock the paint up and keep them out from going dribble drive and really posting up and getting all these easy layups down low. If they can lock that paint up and really force UMass into a three-point shooting team, I think they'll play in their favor. And VCU is obviously a really good three-point shooting team. They'll hit shots consistently in this game. VCU moves on to play Richmond in the semifinals. Next two quarterfinal matchups, we have Loyola Chicago, the 2 seed, taking on St. Bonaventure, the 7 seed. I think Loyola Chicago wins this game. I think the best defensive team in the Atlantic 10 this year. Defensively, they're just going to be too much for St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure, even though is a really good offense, they shoot the 3 ball really well. Something's going to have to give in this one. And unfortunately, playing 2 games in 2 days, I think tired legs is going to get to them, and I think Loyola Chicago can really lock in defensively and make this a grinded out type of a game. And their grit to win is it's been great all season long. They've had a great season under Drew Valentine. I think he'll game plan. He'll find a way to score the basketball enough, but they're just going to string a bunch of stops together and they're just going to pull this one out. Loyola Chicago wins this game, and honestly, it'll probably be close. I think that I see this game being 74 to 68 type of a game. I think Loyola Chicago wins this one in a close one. Loyola Chicago moves on to the semifinal to face the winner of 6 seed Duquesne and 3 seed Dayton. I'm not even going to really waste my time too much on this because I really like this Dayton squad. They're the best offensive team in the Atlantic 10 this year and one of the best offensive teams in the country. They got the best player in the 4 in Deron Holmes, who's just going to eat them up in the paint down low, and they've got a top 5 defense in this league, and I think that's going to be enough. Dayton moves on in the semifinal to face, 2 seed Loyola Chicago. Moving on to the semifinal matchups, we'll go ahead and start the top half of the conference. We'll go 1 seed Richmond taking on 5 seed VCU, the Rams. This game should be interesting. Deron Holmes, not Deron Holmes, wrong matchup. Richmond has had an incredible season thus far. Jordan King has been amazing. They really shoot the 3 ball really well. They only go about 7 deep, but I think that's enough to win them this game. VCU, defensively, they've been very solid. Offensively, they've been very solid. They're a very well-balanced team. But I think what gets me over Richmond is the fact that defensively, they're just so damn talented. And they consistently have hit shots in this league at the 3-point line. And I think Richmond wins this game. And I think Jordan King, this is a type of game where this kid can go out there and get you 30. Because I think, I'm not going to say he needs to per se, because they have a good enough roster, they have good enough pieces around him that way he doesn't need to go for 30 to win this game. But I think in a type of game like this, when VCU has a really good defense, they're going to have to give up something. And I feel like they'll happily give up the tray ball and make them hit shots consistently. And I think that's what Richmond's going to do. And I think Jordan King is going to go for 30 in this game. He's going to eat. He's going to hit a lot of 3-point shots. He's probably going to hit about 3 to 5 3-pointers in this game. He's going to attack the rim. He's going to get VCU in foul trouble, and they're going to have a really tough time guarding him. And then Richmond just pounds them inside and just play insides out, gets enough stops defensively. I think this one, even though both teams are very solid defensively, I actually expect this game to be a little bit high scoring. I think Richmond wins a close one, 77-71. Richmond moves on to the final to face the winner of Loyola Chicago and Dayton. And let me tell you something. I am not holding chalk on this one. I like Loyola Chicago's defense. They're really talented defensively. Offensively, they are not as good as Dayton is, though. Dayton, defensively, is ranked 4th in KenPom. Offensively, they're ranked first. Lower Chicago, offensively, is ranked bottom half of the conference. They're ranked like 9th or 10th in this conference offensively, and obviously they're ranked first in defensively. The defense is great. This is the number one offense taking on the number one defense. And although I always say defense travels and defense can be more consistent, they do not have an answer for Deron Holmes inside. And they have multiple weapons that can get hot from three. Nate Santos shoots 42% from three. Kobe Brea, or Brea, I don't know how actually pronounce his last name, so apologies for you. Shoots over 49% from three. Kobe Elvis shoots over 38% from three. They have 4 dudes who shoot over 38% from three. They can get red hot, and Deron Holmes can just eat them down low. He's a 20-point scorer. He's the best player in this conference. He averages over 8 rebounds per game, 2.6 assists per game. He averages over 2 blocks per game. He does turn the ball over quite too much, about 2 turnovers per game. Needs to clean up that one, needs to take care of the ball. But he's so damn effective. He's so efficient offensively. 55% from the field goal percentage, 70% free throw shooter, and 38% three-point shooter. I'm a huge fan of Deron Holmes. I think he's probably the best, one of the top 5 best mid-major players in the country. He's definitely my favorite mid-major player to watch this year. Him and Robbie Avila and Tucker DeReeves are probably my top 3 favorite mid-major players to keep an eye on this season. But man, like, their offense is just so electrifying. The way they play, how lethal they are from three-point line. I think they're going to eat Loyola Chicago's defense up. I think they score over 80 plus, and I don't think Loyola Chicago can keep up with their offensive scoring paralysis. I think this game's going to be a blowout. May shock some people, but I see Dayton winning this game 82-69. I think they win this game over double digits. But their offense is just so fun to watch. If you haven't watched a Dayton game all season long, they've won over 24 games this year. They're so fun to watch. They're so damn talented. They have multiple guys who can score. They have multiple guys who can just flat out stroke from three. Like, they're so talented. They're so fun to watch. They're so electrifying. They're so lethal. Like, they're the mid-major version of Kentucky. And that's a high praise coming from me, who's not a Kentucky fan. But they're like the mid-major version of Kentucky, the way they can just absolutely light the Nets on fire. So Dayton moves on, wins this game over double digits to face Richmond in the final. It's 1 seed taking on 3 seed Dayton. It's the number 1 offense taking on the number 2 defense, who shoots the ball way better from three than Loyola Chicago does. Loyola Chicago shot over 34% from three. Loyola Chicago shoots about 36% from three, which is pretty good. Richmond shoots over about 38% from three, which is a little bit better. And obviously, they got better players. They got Jordan King. Like, this is Jordan King taking on Deron Holmes, the top 2 best players in this league. I think Dayton wins this league. I picked them in my drone picks. I was very confident in that happening. I've watched Dayton throughout the season, and they've just been so fun to watch. They've been a fun team to keep an eye on. And I rather see Dayton in the tournament than Richmond, although I think both of these teams will get into the NCAA tournament. Depends on how the committee views both of these squads. Dayton's been fun to watch. Richmond's definitely been the best team in the regular season, but this is not the regular season anymore. It's the conference tournament, and Dayton has won this league tournament multiple times throughout the years. They've had success winning at the last 20 years, 4 different coaches, and they continue to win ball games. No matter who's at the helm, no matter who's coaching them, they have the winning formula down there in Dayton, Ohio, and they're consistently winning at a high level. They're a perennial powerhouse in the high majors, mid-major leagues. I think Dayton wins this one. I think this game is going to be fun to watch, though. It's going to be better than the Loyola Chicago-Dayton game. I think this game is going to be fun to watch. Watching Jordan King, see how well he plays against Deron Holmes is going to be intriguing to watch. That matchup's definitely going to be fun to keep an eye on. but I think Dayton wins, man. Jordan King, he's going to have to do his best defensively to stop guys like Kobe Bria and Kobe Elvis. He's going to have to really guard to keep them out from hitting three-point shots. It's going to be really difficult. Dayton wins this game 84-79. I can see this game potentially going to overtime. So keep an eye on the Atlantic 10 Conference. That's the end of my predictions. I think Dayton punches their ticket to the big dance. They will represent the A10 officially. Hopefully this league can get about 3 or 4 bids. I'm not a bracketologist, so I don't know how many teams is going to really go to the big dance from the Atlantic 10, but I know it should be at least a couple. Richmond, I definitely think, should deserve it if they end up losing in the final, because they had a really good regular season, man. They have a really good team, really good, well-coached team. Dayton wins this league. There's literally like 5 to 7 teams that can really win this one. Would not shock me if Richmond just holds shock and just beats everybody off their defense. Would not shock me if VCU comes out as a 5 seed and upsets Richmond in the semifinals and goes on and wins this league. Like, it's just, there's so many good teams in this one. Top heavy conference, definitely. Bottom half's not so much, not really as good as the top half is. Check this game. It doesn't matter who's in the championship game. This game will be played at 1 p.m. on Sunday, right before Selection Sunday. It will be played on CBS or CBS.com or CBS, the TV channel. So make sure you check out this one. I'm very excited to watch this league and how it plays out. Keep an eye on the Atlantic 10. Keep an eye on all these other conferences that's going to be happening this week. Selection Sunday is 6 days away, and boy, I can't wait. As far as that goes, my name is Peyton, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace, y'all.